It was a quiet summer evening in Maplewood, one of those small Ohio towns where everybody knows your dog's name before they know yours. I just moved into a little craftsman-style house on Elm Street, complete with a sagging front porch and a backyard that screamed, "Needs TLC." The neighborhood was friendly enough, kids on bikes, old folks watering their lawns, the usual. But then there was Carl. Carl lived next door, in a beige ranch house that looked like it hadn't been touched since the Carter administration. His lawn was patchy, his mailbox leaned like it was drunk, but his driveway. Oh, that driveway was pristine. It was a slab of asphalt so clean you could eat off it. Not a speck of dirt. Not a blade of grass daring to creep through the cracks. I swear, it glowed under the streetlights at night. I first noticed Carl's. Let's call it devotion a week after I moved in. I was unloading groceries from my beat-up Honda, parked on the street because my own driveway was full of moving boxes. Carl was out there, crouched low, inspecting his asphalt like a jeweler appraising a diamond. He had a little brush in one hand, sweeping away invisible specks. I waved, figuring I'd be neighborly. "Hey, nice day, huh?" He looked up, squinting like I'd just interrupted brain surgery. "Keep your tires off my driveway," he said, voice flat as the pavement he worshipped. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. "I'm serious," he added. "No one drives on it. Not you, not me, nobody." I glanced at his old Chevy pickup, parked on the street, tires half flat from sitting too long. "You don't use it either?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Nope," he said, going back to his brushing. "It's perfect the way it is." That was my introduction to Carl, the driveway king of Maplewood. Over the next few weeks, I learned his rules. Rule 1, don't touch the driveway. Rule 2, don't even think about touching the driveway. Rule 3, if you're having people over, Carl's gonna know, and he's gonna make it weird. One Friday night, I had a few friends over for pizza and beers, nothing crazy, just 6 of us laughing too loud on the porch. Around 9 p.m., I heard this rustling outside. I peeked through the blinds and there was Carl, dragging these lumpy plastic bags from his garage to the end of his driveway. Trash bags, grocery bags, you name it, piled up like a barricade. My buddy Jake, who'd parked across the street, tried to turn around and nearly hit the mess. "What the hell's this guy's deal?" Jake muttered, backing up carefully. "He's protecting the driveway," I said, half laughing, half baffled. Sure enough, Carl stood there, arms crossed, watching us like a hawk. The message was clear: party's over, don't even dream of pulling into my sacred asphalt. By month 2, I was used to Carl's quirks. I'd see him out there at all hours, sweeping, scrubbing, sometimes just staring at his driveway like it was whispering sweet nothings to him. But the real kicker came one rainy afternoon. I was driving home from work, wipers slapping against the downpour, when I saw him. Carl, in a yellow raincoat. Standing in his driveway, hosing it down. In the rain. Water pouring from the sky, water spraying from his hose, all to keep that pavement immaculate. I pulled over, rolled down my window, and just watched for a minute. "Carl," I called out, "it's raining, man. You don't need the hose." He didn't even look up. "Rain's got dirt in it," he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Can't let it settle." I drove off, shaking my head. This guy wasn't just eccentric, he was in a love affair with his driveway, and nothing was gonna come between them. Word spreads fast in Maplewood, and Carl's driveway obsession became the stuff of local legend. At the diner on Main Street, folks swapped stories over coffee and pie. "Heard Carl chased a delivery guy off his lawn with a rake," said Mrs. Delaney, who ran the post office. "Guy's pizza box was an inch over the curb." "Bet he polishes that driveway with wax," chuckled Tom, the hardware store owner. "I sold him 3 cans of sealant last month." I tried to stay out of the gossip, but living next to Carl made me a reluctant expert. People would stop me at the gas station, asking, "Is it true he's got cameras watching that thing?" He didn't, as far as I knew. Or, does he really sleep out there to guard it? Okay. That one I couldn't disprove. Truth was, Carl wasn't a bad guy, just particular. He'd nod at me when I mowed my lawn, even tossed me a spare tomato from his garden once. But crossed the invisible line around his driveway, and you were dead to him. I learned that the hard way when my cousin borrowed my car and accidentally pulled into Carl's driveway to turn around. I was inside when I heard the shouting. Get off! Get off now! Carl was out there, waving his arms like he was directing a plane. My cousin, clueless, rolled down the window. What's the problem, buddy? It's not a parking lot. Carl snapped. You're leaving tire marks. I ran outside, apologizing profusely. He didn't know. Carl. Won't happen again. Carl glared at me, then at the driveway, inspecting it for damage. People got no respect, he muttered, stomping back to his garage for his trusty brush. After that, I put up a little sign on my side of the property line. Please don't use neighbor's driveway. It helped, but Carl still had his defenses. Those plastic bags. They became his go-to move. Any time he heard music from my place or saw extra cars on the street, out came the bags, piled high to block any chance of a turnaround. I started wondering what was in them. Clothes. Old newspapers. The souls of trespassers. I wasn't brave enough to check, but the neighborhood wasn't just laughing at Carl, they were curious. Why was he like this? Some said he'd always been odd, ever since his wife passed years back. Others swore the driveway was a memorial, like he was keeping it perfect for her memory. I didn't buy that, it was too romantic for a guy who hosed pavement in a monsoon. Still, I wanted to understand him. One Saturday, I saw my chance. Carl was out there, as usual, sweeping away imaginary dirt. I grabbed 2 cans of soda from my fridge and walked over. Hey, Carl, I said, offering one. Take a break. He eyed the can like it might explode, but he took it. What's this for? Just being neighborly, I said, sitting on the curb, carefully not touching his driveway. Gotta say, you've got the cleanest pavement in Ohio. What's the secret? He grunted, popping the can open. Ain't no secret. Just care. People don't care anymore. They let things go to hell. I nodded, trying to read between the lines. You've lived here a while, huh? Must have seen a lot change. Too much, he said, staring at his driveway. This street used to be quiet. Now it's all parties. Cars, noise. Gotta keep something right, you know. It wasn't much, but it was the most Carl had ever said to me. For a second, I saw past the driveway obsession to a guy who felt like the world was slipping out of his control. Maybe that asphalt was his way of holding on. Then he stood up, handed me the empty can, and went back to sweeping. Don't let your friends park here, he said over his shoulder. Conversation over. By fall, Carl and I had reached a kind of truce. I kept my guests away from his driveway, and he stopped piling bags every time I had a barbecue. But Maplewood was changing, new families moving in, more traffic, even a Starbucks popping up downtown. Carl didn't like it. I'd see him muttering to himself as delivery trucks rumbled by, their tires kicking up dust that dared to settle on his precious asphalt. The breaking point came in October, during the neighborhood's annual block party. Elm Street was closed off, kids ran wild with glow sticks, and someone's uncle was grilling burgers that smelled like heaven. I'd invited Carl, figuring it was worth a shot. He didn't show, but I wasn't surprised. What did surprise me was what happened next. Around dusk, a couple of teenagers, hyped up on soda and bad ideas, decided to cut through Carl's yard to grab a shortcut to the party. One of them, let's call him Timmy, tripped and fell, sprawling across Carl's driveway. No harm done, right? Wrong. Carl must have had a sixth sense, because he was out there in seconds, yelling like Timmy had committed a felony. You ruined it. Carl shouted, pointing at the spot where Timmy's sneakers had scuffed the pavement. "Look at that mark." Timmy, red-faced, mumbled an apology and ran off. But Carl wasn't done. He grabbed his hose, his brush, and started scrubbing like a man possessed. The party slowed down, people were watching now. Whispering. "He's lost it," someone said. "Somebody needs to talk to him." I felt bad for Carl, but I also knew this was getting out of hand. So I walked over, hands up like I was approaching a wild animal. "Carl, it's just a little dirt. Nobody's hurt." "It's not just dirt," he snapped, not looking at me. "It's disrespect. Nobody cares about anything anymore." I took a deep breath. "I get it, man. You want things to stay nice. But you're scaring people. That kid didn't mean any harm." He stopped scrubbing, just for a second, and I thought I saw something soften in his eyes. Then he went back to it. "Leave me be," he said. The block party went on, but the mood was off. A few days later, I heard Carl had put up a chain across his driveway, like he was guarding Fort Knox. The neighborhood was fed up, people talked about complaining to the city, saying it was a hazard. I didn't want it to come to that. Carl was weird, sure, but he was our weird, so I tried one last time. I baked some cookies, okay, I bought them from the store, but it's the thought that counts, and knocked on his door. He opened it, looking suspicious. "What now?" "Peace offering," I said, holding up the cookies. "Can we talk?" He let me in, grudgingly. His living room was a time capsule, shag carpet, wood-paneled walls, photos of a smiling woman I figured was his late wife. We sat down, and I didn't beat around the bush. "Carl, people are worried about you. The driveway thing, it's causing problems." He stared at his hands. "It's all I've got left," he said quietly. "Ellen used to say, keep the place nice, Carl. I'm trying." That hit me hard. Suddenly, the driveway wasn't just pavement, it was his way of holding on to her. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. "Maybe you could let people in a little," I suggested. "We're not all out to mess things up." He didn't agree, but he didn't argue either. The next week, the chain came down. He still swept his driveway every day, still grumbled about dirt, but the bag barricade stopped. One day, I even saw him let a kid's bike roll across the edge without losing it. Progress. Carl never became Mr. Social, but he started waving back when I said hi. And his driveway? Still the cleanest in Maplewood. Some things don't change, and maybe they shouldn't.